Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the CEO Sitdown. For those of you who are on TikTok, you've been here a sec. Forgive me for being, usually I stick to the schedule, but I'm early today because I started the TikTok stream earlier than expected. And for those of you in TikTok land, thank you for joining us. Why is it not? Hold on, guys.
This is the neck pain relief.
Sorry, guys. I'm just trying to figure out why this is not coming up. My channel. Okay, it is live, but it's not showing me. Why? Technology. Those of you on LinkedIn, you guys are getting all the technical issues. Sorry, because it looks like you guys are actually working, which is usually the stream that flops the hardest because I've had so many technical breakdowns on LinkedIn, it's not even funny. But it looks like you guys are actually working for once, which is great. I love when things work for me. Yeah. You are 100% working. Sorry for those of you who are waiting for this to start. I'm also TikTok, you guys got on with me 15 minutes early. LinkedIn, you're dealing with all the technical issues because you got on 15 minutes early, but for some reason, okay, there we go. Sorry, guys. This is what happens when I do things early because I have people expecting things from me, and of course, I'm on the phone on the live stream. Give me a sec. We will. Okay, this is what happens when I do things early. I meant for this to be. This is why, as a CEO, you keep a schedule. You keep the schedule you're meant to. My poor team is probably watching this back and going like head in hands, going, "What on God's green earth have you just done?" Profile. Referrals. Here we go. Somebody's needed a referral link for something. Hopefully this will work. let me see if I can send them. No, wrong link. Shoot. 240 is the number I need. My team is going to kill me when they watch this back. Who wanted to have a look? It says I. I guess there's somebody else. Guys, this is real life wonders of founder work. This is also why we keep schedules and are supposed to stick to them, because then we don't throw everybody else's life into chaos. Oh, Jennifer. Okay. Somebody asked me to send something to somebody else, but wrote I multiple times. Okay. I'm going to cut this conversation short. No, you didn't. You asked before. Before about what? I am obviously missing like half this conversation. Not too shocking. Not too shocking, guys. All right, guys. So forgive me for that long, drawn out. My team is so going to kill me. They are so going to kill me. They don't like when I do those kinds of things with when I'm supposed to be on live streams. Welcome to the CEO Sitdown. Every week we sit down and I answer your questions about everything from life, business, marketing, media, entertainment. My latest thoughts and experiences, we sit down and chit chat about the things you are seeing in business, the things that I'm seeing in business, the questions you have, mindset, marketing, life. Pretty much nothing's off limits during this time. Fair warning, disclaimer, you get foul, you get vile, you get blocked. That's the way this goes. Nothing's off limits, but I have my limits. If you've been here before, you know the hard stop. Anyways, welcome. My name is Lauren Hatch. I'm the CEO and founder of Live Fearless Media, and I've spent the last 17 years of my life in marketing, media, entertainment, and technology. It has been one heck of a ride, and over the last 10 years, I've actually been completely out on my own, working for myself, and it has been a crazy wild ride. Every week on Thursdays, 11 a.m. Pacific time, I come to you to answer your questions about life and business. We try to stick to most of the things focusing on marketing and business building. Recently, there's been a huge uptick in AI questions, but because marketing and media has a lot of AI involved, or AI is highly affecting those industries, those questions are all fair game. Also, questions about building business, how I built my business, where I came from, my background, all fair game in this time. Feel free to drop your questions in the comments below or head on over to my Instagram and answer the question box in my stories. If we don't get to your question today, don't worry. We do carry these over week to week, and we try to kind of bundle things together well. Now, a bit of housekeeping before we get started. Things are shifting a little bit at Live Fearless Media and in the brand of Live Fearless CEO. Over the last couple of months, I've been hinting at a lot of changes that have been happening. And this move to a new office is not my only big change happening. So for those of you who don't know, I moved my house and my office in the same week. For those of you who have to do these things, don't do them simultaneously. That's a very bad idea. It is going to be a typical Lauren answer in do as I say, not as I do. I tell people all the time that from my experiences that it is a very bad idea to do as I did and very good idea to do as I say. This would be another one of those experiences. Do not try to pack up your house and pack up your office at the same time and move those locations simultaneously. That's a really bad idea. And so we are still in the midst of getting things together, hence the big blank grayish yellowish wall behind me. In the future, hopefully this will look a little more visually interesting. But right now it's what we got to work with. I could have potentially flipped my entire setup so that we faced my bookcase, but flipping that would have been a nightmare. So we're not doing that. For those of you on TikTok, if you are just joining us now, please forgive the very odd angle you are at. Usually you are in with the rest of the streaming network. However, for some reason today, TikTok did not want to play nice. And instead of fighting it, I decided you were just going on my phone. I had thought originally I would put my phone right in line with the camera. However, we found out very quickly that even our smallest of tripods put the angle of the phone in such a place where the camera gets blocked. So we are where we are. We're working around it. I wanted to make sure everybody got on live today because we've definitely had some interesting moments with this over the last couple of weeks. That being said, drop your questions and comments below. We are going to start with one that comes off the housekeeping, that things are changing. Well, I didn't finalize the housekeeping. Let's talk about what that actually is. So let's talk about the changes. CEO Sitdown is being moved. We do not have a finalized time at this very moment about what time it will be at, but it will no longer be at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time starting in September. Not here in August. August will remain the same for the next 2 weeks. However, we are moving the September timing. So let's talk about the first question. I selected this one very specifically because it was one that was dropped in my question box. I believe actually by two different people. They're both friends of mine that I haven't told what's going on. But I've been hinting that there were a lot of changes at Live Fearless Media on all of my social platforms for the last 2 months. And so the question was, you keep telling us something's changing. What's going on? So here's the long and the short. Live Fearless Media's entire business strategy is shifting for a lot of reasons. One, to better serve our customers and clients. It's probably the most important reason why we're shifting. Over the last couple of years, last year really, we've started to see clients pull away from certain services and move more towards either using the products we've developed internally, or in a lot of cases, go and look for a certain type of business model that we weren't supporting at the time. So in order to better serve our clients and customers and give them what they want, we sat down, we did a big questionnaire to our current clients and customers and past clients and customers to get their input and feedback in what did they really want to see from us? What would be the thing that would make them happy, and what would be the thing they actually want to spend money on? Because we don't want to waste time. We don't want to waste money. Not for any of our clients. And so we sat down and we asked them, we did a big questionnaire. We found out all the information we needed to know. And we went back to them and said, okay, so we're going to shift the model. So for those of you who don't know, Live Fearless Media specifically has been a service-based business its entire life. In fact, we built like 4 products over the years that we've actually launched, and we really don't put any real emphasis behind them. We have within our services a ton of products that we offer with our services, like standard operating procedure documents and documentation documents, reporting documents, all these things that we actually customize and create for our clients. We've offered those over the years, and we actually found that people want those things and not the big services anymore, which is actually a really good thing, because of the fact of piece number 2 of why we're switching the business model. And that is because I am stepping back from full-time service. I, over the years, have always maintained clients within Live Fearless Media. I've had contractors and partners and team members and everybody else that has also maintained a part of the service within the business, but I have always had a core set of clients, meaning I was the client agent getting things done for them. And over the years, that has become more and more difficult to maintain for a multitude of reasons, including the fact that I needed to work on the business and not just in the business. The number one founder, like, fatal flaw. We all love working in our businesses. We all love. If we didn't love working in our businesses, we wouldn't be doing it, period. I have people tell me all the time, well, they get to the point where they hate working, then you probably are not in the right business. And I'm not saying that there won't be days that you don't love, and you won't have days that are rough, but we all love working in our businesses. It is the fatal flaw of every founder I've ever known, is getting that transition into place. And so that's one of the reasons within my schedule, but also because my hours are about to become super limited. I made the choice to go back to school, and not traditional school. That's a whole nother thing. I'm actually going to ministry school for a year. I am not going after a degree or a certificate. That's not why I'm doing it. If you've been here before and you know the Live Fearless motto about building business, or have been in these CEO sit-downs before, you have heard me say that business is a body, mind, spirit experience. The reason I'm going to ministry school for a year, and maybe I'll do it longer, who knows, is because of the fact that I focused on the mind and I focused on the business for the last 10 years of my life. And I've kind of let the spirit side of things go to the wayside, which is a dangerous place to be as a founder, because the spirit has significant influence on your mind. It has significant influence on your body. And so to leave the spirit and the soul out of the experience and not take care of those things is a problem. So I'm not going back to full-time school. I'm not. I don't have the time for that. But I am going to ministry school, which takes about 20 to 25 hours a week out of my schedule, which, if you know the Live Fearless way, you know I am infamous for working 60 and 80-hour weeks. It's just been my season. I've said it over and over and over again. I don't believe in balance. I believe in seasons. It's been the season to work. And this is, I believe, the season to kind of restore and take care of myself. No, I am not leaving my business. No, I am not selling my business. No, I'm not replacing my CEO. I'm still the CEO. But what I am doing is limiting what I do in the business down to the absolute essentials. So I actually have to lead. I have to actually work on the business. But I do not need to serve clients on a day-to-day basis. So I am no longer going, at least for a year, going to be taking direct clients, meaning I will not be running marketing campaigns. We do have people who will run marketing campaigns. Let me make that clear. I have people who will run marketing campaigns, but I will not be running marketing campaigns in Live Fearless Media. I will not be building videos. I actually took every production for the next year off my calendar. I managed to either get it on a contractor's calendar or another director's. I will not be creative directing for the next year. I won't be doing a lot of those kinds of things that I've done naturally for the last 10 years. I'm not going to be doing. I will still be running Live Fearless Media. I still will be interacting with clients, just in a different capacity. As the CEO, as the person here on social media, you'll still see me. Hence the reason why we're rescheduling the time for the CEO sit down and not canceling it altogether. It will be a very different schedule though, guys. So for those of you who have joined me for lives, whether that is like my morning daily live or you have joined us later in the day, this way we've operated for the last 10 years, and especially since COVID and for the last 6, is drastically shifting. You guys should have seen it. We were sitting down with the business plan. I guess that was a week ago for final reviews to kind of figure out workflows, pipelines, how's this changing, what we're doing here, which has meant a lot of shifting, a lot of shifting. And so we sat down with the final draft of this coming from September, because we kind of had to change things. Usually my business plans come out. I write my business plans in December, I write them in November. I distribute them to my team in December, and then January is when those changes hit. That is not the way our lives are working right now, because I decided to go back to school, and that's September. Yes, we have a late start date in comparison to most schools in California. So I am September 4th or something like that. And so because of that, we've been going over so I finalized the business plan at the beginning of the month, distributed it to my team. They knew prior to me rewriting the business plan that this was coming. Distributed it. We talked about it last week. And we are in the midst of implementation. By September, we are full on running. It's the fastest implementation of a business plan I've ever done. But it's really crazy what is going on. So in that vein, I have a question here that we're going to answer. What does that mean for services with Live Fearless Media? So services will still be available. However, services with me will not be, right? So if you didn't know, we have founder-led services here at Live Fearless Media, meaning if you wanted to work with me on a marketing campaign, you could. If you wanted to work with me specifically on a production, whether that's TV or non-traditional. I don't do film, but TV and non-traditional I do. I have done. If you have a corporate campaign, communications campaign, you could hire me. That is no longer available as a service through Live Fearless Media. There are still services available, just not me. There are some alternates that we will be announcing in the coming weeks that are taking the place of the founder-led services that will allow you to work with me, but it's not going to be as one-on-one. Just because my time is so limited the coming year. I foresee that once I'm done with school, which should end in May of next year, I will be able to go back to the normal schedule where I'm still doing founder-led services. So this is not a long-term change, it is a short-term change. The other big thing we're doing, I mentioned the fact that a lot of our clients have been loving our products, but moving away from some of our services in an effort to use our products. The products that we created have always been traditionally applicable only when you hire us for a service. Meaning, when you hire us for a service, say you hire us for a social media campaign, and in that campaign, you want to create a series of AI templates that you can utilize to continue the campaign once we're out of the picture. Once we've done all the creative and all your setup and all your strategy for your initial run, you want to keep the campaign running past that point. Maybe you've made an evergreen campaign that you want to keep running for your company, and you've made a bunch of AI templates, and we've created the AI workflow so that you can continue the process once we're out of the picture. Those AI workflows we consider a product. I know not everybody does, but we do. And they can be very easily customized. And so what we've done is we've actually created basically like a template form and that of the workflows, and then giving you an entire instructional on how to actually use them, and what pieces you have to replace in order to customize them to your organization, and then how to implement them. Same thing with like template graphics. We've done a similar thing. But all these things that we used to do specifically customized to a client's contract, we are now actually offering as a product. Now, I will admit, I said September. That's when this goes live. We are going to start going live with some of this actually at the end of this week. We had thought everything was going live in September. We've actually got a good amount done that we can do that this week. But everything from, we have a full-on library that you could purchase from us of standard operating procedures. We've got templates, we've got educational materials, we've got all these things. And I'm not selling a course that says you need to buy something else from me. Let me make this clear. Every time we sell something to you, technically in marketing, it gets a little complicated because somebody will buy something for email marketing and then we'll mention something about like cross-posting to social media and the social media piece isn't in there. I can't do anything about that. I wish I could sell you the world. I can't. That's what the library actually is for. So you can get access to everything. So it'd be one low monthly fee to get access to every single piece of material that we've ever created. Standard operating procedures, templates, all those feedback forms. I'm trying to think what else we have in there. Reporting documents, all in there. So we have built that out as an opportunity. It's something that our clients have been asking for. For those of you who've been really interested, because there's been a lot of questions about AI over the last couple of months, those of you who are interested specifically in AI-based marketing, because especially those of you who are on my LinkedIn, you on my LinkedIn know because I write about it on LinkedIn constantly. Actually, I haven't been for the last month, but that's because I've been moving. But prior to that, I was writing on LinkedIn every week about AI in marketing. And I was coming to TikTok. You guys and I were talking about AI in marketing. LinkedIn got a lot of AI in marketing. I'm trying to think who else got. I don't think Instagram did. YouTube did not. We haven't been posting to YouTube lately. But what this has allowed us to do is actually give you the processes and procedures that we use in AI. And let me tell you, we use AI very, very well. And we've been doing it for a very long time. Everything from, yes, we do large language models where we're truly using it to help us write, although I've never final drafted anything ever in AI. And I don't know that I will ever start doing that. People sit there and tell me all the time, like they're just like final drafting in AI. And I'm like, no, never. I don't care how big, how short, never final draft in AI. You can use it to first draft and you can use it to edit, but don't final draft ever in AI. That's my personal opinion. For a lot of reasons. It's just not a good idea. So there's that. But we're giving away all of our processes and procedures in the new library. So if you've ever been curious about, I talk a lot about how to make AI sound like you. That's one of the topics I talk about all the time. It is actually not that hard to get AI to sound like you. It's just a matter of knowing the exact steps to utilize. Another one that actually we started creating this last week for our clients, and it's going to go in the library, is the big discussion around Claude watermarking, and how to get out of Claude watermarks. We've created an entire skill document that you can install into your Claude for a new skill that keeps you from the watermarking. So that's all available in the AI. The skills we built, the models we've built, the promptings we've built, directions on actually how to change those prompts so they're actually customized to you and you're not getting just Live Fearless Media regurgitated, because that's not what we want. We don't want you. The whole point of putting AI into a business, especially any kind of marketing strategy or brand-based strategy or entertainment-based strategy, if you're doing any of those, sales-based strategy also fits into this. If you're doing any of those four, we have to get you to, we don't want you regurgitating, right? We don't need you regurgitating Live Fearless Media in order to create your stuff. And we don't need you regurgitating the average answer online, which is what AI will do if you do not give it the right prompting and language and setup in order to avoid that situation. But in the meantime, we are actually creating that one, the watermarking one, because of the fact that that has been something everybody's been talking about over the last couple of weeks. And our clients are concerned about, and admittedly, we at Live Fearless Media are concerned about, because the watermarking situation not only makes AI detectable, that's really not a problem. I don't care if AI is detectable in my stuff or not. What I do care about is when the algorithms start caring about it. And we all know that the algorithms, although it's stupid that the algorithms don't like AI because they're using AI themselves, even on my TikTok live right now, AI summary discussing the shift from founder services to product library of AI templates. That's actually not an accurate thing about what we were talking about. That's just one piece of the library. But that being said, here on my TikTok right now, AI is analyzing what I'm saying. I guarantee you all the other platforms I've got up, I've got LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube up. We're supposed to have Instagram up too, but I guess not. This has been a day for technology. All right. But it's all over the place. So I've never really understood why the algorithms of these different platforms are so against it. But they are. So until they start accepting it a little bit more, it is what it is. My big thing to you all is, if you are going to utilize AI, make sure it's original, especially if you're on YouTube, especially if you're on Instagram, especially if you're on TikTok. LinkedIn has a lot more leniency with AI. And then also start looking at the policies around AI utilization and whether or not you need to be flipping that toggle that says you used AI, because in some cases you might need to be. It's just something to think about. Because some of these places now, it used to be that you only needed to flip the toggle if you used 100, it was 100% AI. But now we've gotten to a place that has changed. So something to think about. That's completely off topic from everything else we've been discussing. But let me pull another question and we can talk some more, because we've got about 15 minutes left in our live. Ooh. Okay, let's see what we can find question-wise. Where are my questions? Where'd they go? Here we go. CEO Sitdown file. Why did it close? All right, whatever. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them. I haven't seen anything else pop up in the last couple minutes, so we'll go to the pre-submitted questions that you guys sent me. Ooh, this one's good. So, what was the best thing that was ever said to you, and who gave it to you? Funny enough, the best thing that was ever said to me was not a compliment. And they did not mean it as a compliment. So, for those of you who don't know the story of Live Fearless Media and how this started, I was unemployed for a year. Live Fearless Media was a complete and utter act of desperation. And my lights are going out. Why? I do not know, since they're plugged in. Hopefully that'll stay on. So Live Fearless Media was a total act of desperation. It was I need a job. I need one now. I need to be able to pay my rent, my bills, my that. And I had been unemployed for a year at this point. At this point, I have moved home to New York City because, for those of you who don't know, I was living in Michigan at the time. I moved home to New York City. I was living with my mother. I was super depressed. That was not just from the unemployment. Unfortunately, I had dealt with depression and anxiety for several years, and complex post-traumatic stress disorder for years prior to that point. And so I was in a really tough place in my life, and it was not fun. It sucked, but I was completely desperate. And I became even more desperate when I had hired somebody to either find me part-time work, temp work, or a full-time placement. They were an agency that was specifically supposed to help me find a job. That was all they were hired to do, help me find a job. Well, I went in for the initial interview that they have in order to kind of get a sense of your resume and if they're going to be able to place you in this, that, and the other. And the hiring manager looks at me at the end of the interview, and I said, I had asked the question, what do you think my chances are of getting full-time work? Because that's really what I wanted, but I was willing to take anything at this point. And I remember her looking me in the eye and said, I have some grave concerns about you. And I'm like sitting there going, why? Like, what's the deal? What's the issue? I thought it was just my unemployment history. Like, I'd been unemployed for a year. And she looks at me and she says, I think you're unhireable. And what? What do you mean? I have web development background, communications background, PR, HR, like you name it. I have at this point in my life, I was 28 years old. I know it seems weird, but I've had a job most of my life. By the time I was 20, I had my first real professional job in financial services. And so I'd had a job that was developing really high level skills in corporate environments for years at this point, 8 years to be exact. And I remember them looking at me and going, we think you're unhireable, and me falling apart. because this was my like last ditch effort to get back into a true corporation. And there were a lot of reasons for why they thought I was unhireable. It was a bunch of malarkey, if you ask me. I don't care how long somebody's out of a job. If they lose the job just because they failed a licensing exam, that doesn't make you unhireable. And you're not unhireable if you have a lot of passions in life and people change your titles to match those passions. And because that's what happened to me on several occasions. I was hired for one job and then they put me in another. And that was more for the needs of the companies I was in than my choices. Or in most cases, my title said I did one thing and then the companies had me do another, right? I was hired a lot as a financial analyst. I'm pretty darn good with numbers. I can do spreadsheets with the best of them. But I also happen to be super creative and happen to be pretty decent at videos and design and all the other aspects of marketing and creative. And suddenly I became a web developer for one company, and I became a marketing person for another, and I became the creative director for a sales team on another. And it wasn't, my title actually never reflected the skills that I was actually developing for these companies, especially since I worked in finance. Now, if you've worked in finance, and specifically either private wealth management or some sort of wealth management area, meaning like banker's bank. If you don't know what a banker's bank is, that is somebody, an organization who literally does the banking trading for a bank. All of these types of companies, if you've ever worked in the financial field, you know it. They're usually about 3 to 5 years behind the curve on technology, on marketing, on implementation. And it's very, very common for them not to have the level of expertise that other corporations, large corporations, would have. Now, part of that is due to the significant regulation that sits around marketing and media in corporate finance, in financial corporations. If you're in a wirehouse, you know this very well, especially. Banker's Bank, you know this very well. I know I'm using very specific terms that are not making sense to most people, but if you are in the financial services field, you know what I'm talking about. And so I got put in the position. Oftentimes what happens in these companies, in order to avoid hiring whole new departments, in order to take these things on, they use the people that they already have. Typically, when it comes to technology, communications, marketing, social media, those fields, it's the youngest people in the office. It's just the way it is. Whether you're working on a team and they use that, or if you're working for the corporation as a whole and they use you, it's oftentimes like the youngest, the newest hire. And so that's the way my skills developed. Was there was a need, they utilized me, they told me to learn it or find it or do it, and that's how I developed my skills. But the problem was, when I went to go get a traditional job, my jobs would say financial analyst or trading desk analyst or fixed income analyst. You get the point, right? Very numbers heavy jobs, very Excel heavy jobs. Now, I could do those jobs, absolutely, but my biggest credentials, the things where I had the biggest wins in those 8 years that I was working, were in marketing, were in media, were in web development, were in search engine optimization, in all the things. Now, funny enough, I actually took all the skills I used in analytics and applied them to this world. That's part of the reason why I got so good at it. But and why, like, if you ever look at my statistics, not Live Fearless Media's statistics, please don't look at those because those are deplorable. And I actually hang my head in shame because I consistently, this is a pretty consistent issue, am the cobbler with no shoes, meaning I do for everyone else what I do not do for myself. That's another reason why we're doing this year of spiritual growth, because I kind of need to get over myself. That's a whole nother thing and a half. But anyways, I digress. So the reality was they were saying I was unhireable, and that was probably the most impactful thing that has ever been said to me in my life. And unfortunately, I heard that from multiple sources over the next couple of weeks. At which point I realized I needed to find a way to do things that was not traditional, because my entire career had been non-traditional. It was part of the reason why I was being told I was unhireable, right? I was being told I was unhireable because my resume did not match my titles the way they were supposed to. And so I now needed to figure out a way to take my career, and it wasn't going to match the traditional career trajectory, so that I could actually have a job. And eventually it ended up being, well, I don't actually even need to go out there and have somebody else give me the job. I'll give myself the job. That's what it became. And it was probably the most impactful statement to hear, you are unhireable. That and the other statement that probably lit the biggest fire under me, again, not a positive statement. This is insane. It'll never work. Between those two, I think those are probably the most impactful statements on my career, on my life, because I never accepted them. I was never willing to accept them. And it was kind of a watch me moment. I had no problem telling somebody to watch me. All right, guys, we've got quite a few extra questions here this week that we haven't gotten to because we had so much housekeeping and then situations going. But because we only have a few minutes left, I don't want to jump into a new one and potentially run super long this week. But thank you for joining me live here for the CEO Sit Down. For those of you who got stuck in the rigmarole of either the technology issues at the beginning or because I started things live, I still had people asking me questions, needing to respond. Please forgive. Thank you for joining us. We will be doing this, as I said, through August. Schedule as usual, Thursday, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thanks for joining us, and I'll see you next week. And don't forget,